Welcome to the Mountain Noise Podcast. You're back. We're back with another episode. It's lovely to have you here. Today, we're talking to the wonderful Nat Hathaway. Now, I came across Nat on YouTube. It is my platform for addiction, YouTube. I spend far too much time on there, watching far too many things that I kind of care about. I really care about them, but I spend way too much time on it. And one day I was served a young gentleman making a video called Making a 70s Yacht Rock Type Beat, which was intriguing to me. And I clicked it, and lo and behold, did I hear a New Zealand accent? Oh, yes, I did. That video now has 18,000 views. It's turned out to be the second in a series of now weekly videos that are being uploaded by one Nat Hathaway. And so I contacted the young man based in Auckland because I just wanted to know what was going on, and I wanted to get to the bottom of, his approach to building an audience online. Because as we talk in the interview, which you're about to listen to, it seems that building an audience online is something that the man talks about, or everyone really talks about all the time, it's like very cookie cutter. Everyone, it's like you got to make TikToks, you got to try and get Spotify plays on playlists. It's kind of like the same shit over and over again. I think that there's lots of different ways to build an audience online, and I think that Nat Hathaway has discovered the one that works for him. So today on the podcast, talking about making 70s rock beats on YouTube and the impact that's had on the other parts of his career. It is the one and only Nat Hathaway. Literally the first awareness I had of you was from this new series of YouTube videos. So for me, as well as like the esteemed listeners of the podcast, how can you get me up to speed on your like journey in music so far, like up until the point where you started this most recent round of YouTube content?
Yeah, for sure. Well, primarily I'm a bass player. That's my instrument, which I've honed in on for about almost 10 years now. Yeah, so I started just getting lessons in high school. It was funny, my mum actually forced me because I wasn't playing any sports at that point. I was in like year 10, and I think I'd stopped playing. I think I played hockey and I did athletics as well, but I stopped doing that. And Mum's like, you got to do something, you got to get a hobby. And she's like, look at your fingers, they're so long. Like you should play bass. You'll be a mean bass player. And I was like, oh nah. But then it was funny. As soon as I just laid my hands on it, I was like, whoa, this is what I want to do. It was one of those kind of moments. So I started playing bass, and then the next pivotal moment would have been discovering the Beatles when I was about 17, and that was when I kind of clicked and realized I want to actually, be a musician of some sort. So I ended up enrolling in the jazz performance degree at Auckland University, and did that for 4 years. That just kind of really gets you to hone in on your craft. So I kind of learned a lot about harmony and music theory, and got obviously really good technique on the bass, and kind of got some of that down. And then I just realized that I always wanted to kind of use those skills to make pop music essentially, but definitely more kind of vintage style pop music, like especially the kind of 70s to early 80s pop music. So I really got into that and just started slowly writing songs, and like kind of teaching myself to sing like very averagely, but well enough to kind of get my idea across. That's kind of the main focus I've always had. I just started slowly making music. And alongside that, I was playing in lots of bands. I still am. My main group is a band called Messiah. So we jam kind of like more rootsy reggae music. We've actually come to Christchurch before. I think we did Space Academy a couple years ago, and that was really cool. Lots of other kind of tours we've done. I just kind of slowly have been ticking away in the background, just writing my own tunes. And now I'm at the point where I'm just like wanting to pursue that a bit more. So I put out an album last year called Hold Me, and that was really fun to work on. It was definitely more of a kind of 80s vibe. There's lots of like synthesizers and kind of big. I just drowned it in noise. Lots of like synthesizers, which is cool. It like fit that kind of purpose. But now I'm just really keen to strip it back and just make it really 70s, like all the classic kind of Bee Gees records and, bands like those who just, they didn't have all these crazy synthesizers. Well, they had a few, but they would more just let the song shine, and that's what I really want to kind of tap into, is just letting the melody speak for the song and not just drowning it in a bunch of kind of layers of production. That's kind of what I'm trying to steer away from at the moment. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at now. Yes, I'm still playing a lot of bass in lots of different groups at the moment, but I'm really just hoping to kind of let my music kind of slowly start coming up alongside that in the future. So yeah, that's kind of why I started making the videos. I just thought initially they were kind of meant for Instagram, but I posted a couple. But the thing with Instagram is that they don't really favor long form kind of content, so that's kind of why I put the first one on YouTube. I was like, oh, screw it, I'll just put it on YouTube, and it seemed to just have a lot more of an effect on that platform as opposed to Instagram. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at now, I guess. That was the kind of the spiel of my musical journey.
And have you been a YouTube consumer that entire time as well?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that I don't generally watch the style of videos I post, though. I find that most of the videos I watch are just completely stupid, just like vloggers from the States or people from the UK. I generally don't watch a lot of music related content. I mean, obviously, if I'm trying to learn a skill, like a mixing skill, I might watch someone explain a technical thing. But I generally, I just keep it pretty light on YouTube. Just lots of kind of, I wouldn't say brain rot, but just like, that kind of terrible stuff. Like, just it's not the best, but it is fun to watch, especially if you get home from a long day at work and you just want to unwind. But yeah, definitely irritates my flatmates a bit if I'm just watching it on the TV with my dinner. They're like, "What is this? Like, this is terrible." Yeah,
because I had a little like scroll down through your YouTube, and you did. I mean, 8 years ago, you were posting bass covers.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
Were you, in say your circles of people you were over, like, were you the only person posting to YouTube, or was that becoming like relatively more normal when you were doing that?
I think definitely in my friend circle, no one else was doing that. Yeah, I think it's hard to know. I was pretty young then. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure, but I don't remember any of my friends posting videos like that. Definitely not music videos per se.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Because and has that really changed now? Like, do you have many friends now who are also active on YouTube as musicians in the way similar to the way that you are, like beyond just putting an official video on there?
Yeah, not to my knowledge, to be honest. But then again, unless people, I would only really see what's on their Instagram, to be honest. But there's definitely obviously lots of bands that I am associated with will post their music videos. But yeah, I don't think I've seen any kind of similar content to mine. But I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. As I said, I'm not really kind of actively searching for that stuff on YouTube. And it's funny because even lots of my friends, they didn't know I was posting these videos until I told them, But yeah, it's funny because I'll often get people in the comments section, people who I know, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's Nat," and they'll be like, "Oh, wow, this is really cool to see." But yeah, I think unless you're actively promoting it on your Instagram, I wouldn't even really know, to be honest. But I think I'd say, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, that is crazy, because I think if people might think we're just talking about like random videos with no views, but that second one, making a 70s yacht rock type beat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already on 18,000 views.
Yeah.
Talk me through that. Like, when you posted that one, it had a bit of a different reaction in terms of watchers. Like, what was it like reacting to that yourself?
It was just quite crazy for me, really, because the first, man, I think it took like about a week for it to get any views. It just kind of sat there. Um, that's the funny thing with the YouTube algorithm is you don't really know how it works, but obviously they somehow found a really good target audience for it, and it just slowly started kind of getting more and more. And I think it was just really crazy to watch. Because I think it actually gained like 1,000 subscribers just from that one video within like a few days. It was just like just really quick and quite mind-boggling really. But it was just quite an awesome little video because I don't plan my videos at all. I just kind of sit in front of the camera and just do what I'd normally do in my room, except I'll just put a camera there and just try to capture it as best I can. But I think with that one, there was a certain charm to it. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just, I don't know, it just felt really natural. And I wasn't even using a microphone or anything. I was just using the phone audio plus like a mix from the screen recording. But yeah, obviously it just somehow resonated with that certain kind of niche audience because it is really a niche audience. I think in this kind of modern kind of climate, there's not a huge demand for like that kind of music, but I think it is slowly kind of turning in that direction. And I think that people are slowly realizing how awesome like that era of music was. And I think, yes, kind of found a nice little niche audience of people who are kind of like-minded in that sense. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, I think you describe it as a niche audience, which I guess is correct, but also like I'm sure there's lots of musicians who are in lots of different types of genres or trying lots of different things that would be like, holy fuck, I just got like 18,000 views on this thing. Like, doesn't happen like that for them. So I've always thought like, actually, I don't operate this way, but if you were a person who was like, I just want to kind of like game and succeed and stuff, like I would always tell those kinds of people like, well, you got to find a niche because actually there's usually less competition, but people are more into it. And if you're into it as well, it's easier to find the people you can connect with rather than trying to find people like you within like basically everyone on the world.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you bang on with that.
But it's cool, man. Like I do watch a lot of like production videos as kind of like entertainment mostly, not even educate. Yeah. I just put it on the background because I quite like it. And I think yours was, from my perspective, yours was quite refreshing because of the genre thing. I think actually like the format and how it looks and what it is I've seen heaps of those, but actually all of them are usually either hip hop or electronic beats.
True.
And having like what is ostensibly like a band guy making like the band music that everyone thinks is like band music, in that format was actually really, I found it really refreshing and really cool because I think it can get quite like disassociated from what people think is like real music when everyone's just at a laptop and it's a complete screen record and you're just staring at Ableton the whole time. But having like singing and bass guitar and the kind of like all that shit, I think that's partly why it's found that kind of audience because it is familiar, but it's it's because of that change. It's a real fresh twist on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think that's very true. And I've definitely had a few comments kind of saying what you've said, where it's just quite refreshing that there's not many people doing it in that similar kind of way, especially in the kind of genre I'm kind of exploring. So that's really good to hear.
You said you put obviously you put the album out, right? And again on your YouTube channel, you put 2 official videos and a live session.
Yes.
A question I really wanted to ask you is what do you think about the fact that you put all your work into the album, you did official videos, you put all that stuff out, which is what everyone does.
Yeah.
And they're being like, just in terms of cold metrics, they're being like ridiculously outperformed by literally like just making music on a day. Like how do you make sense of that? Like what do you think about that?
I haven't thought of it at all, but if I were to think about it right now, I think in terms of facts and like metrics, it's probably a bit depressing, but I think It's tricky because I didn't have any sense of fan base at that point. I only had like 30 subscribers when I put up those two videos. And already since I've put out these new videos, that Hold Me videos got over 1,000 more views just within those few weeks. So it's definitely helping. But I think even though I did put a lot of effort into those kind of things, it was my first release, and it was I was at the kind of I still am at that stage where I don't have like an established fan base on like streaming services or anything. But I don't know. I think I just really enjoyed making those music videos, and they weren't actually as high effort as it might seem. I think that Hold Me video was literally just a couple takes with a camcorder and me just kind of riffing off to the song, and it wasn't actually too hard to make. I think the hardest one would have been that live session, which actually has the least amount of views, but that's all good because I still enjoyed filming that, and it was fun to jam the song with some real people and get it in a live setting. But yeah, I'm not too concerned really about the numbers on those specifically. I think that over time, people might realize they like that kind of stuff, and it's good that I've got a kind of a fresh surge of people who can potentially be exposed to it, you know. So it's I'm just thinking of it in a positive way, that even though these videos outperformed those older ones, it's also maybe encouraging them to scroll through my older stuff and, you know, have a listen. So that's quite a positive from it.
Because that is a thing. Like, essentially, it sounds like it's you think of it as many people do, as like, this is a thing I do to build audience for myself. That is cool. And it seems to be working for that. Is it you're also posting the same kind of things like you said on Instagram and on TikTok as well, or less on TikTok?
I'm less so on TikTok now. I think I was definitely grinding on TikTok for a little while, but I figured with TikTok it's just super hard to crack. And I think the only really way you can get a following is if you're posting like every day or even multiple times a day. And I just don't have that drive in terms of social media. It's just I just never kind of caught that bug. I just and the thing with TikTok is it needs to be like engaging straight away, and it needs to be constantly engaging, otherwise people just scroll past it, you know. And that's what I kind of like with YouTube, is that often the audience just prefers sitting down and watching a 30-minute video as opposed to just kind of having this instant dopamine rush and just watching a 30-second like brain rot video, you know. That's kind of what I figured with it, and I just decided, screw it, like I don't need to do that. I can just do it on YouTube, and luckily that is kind of like working out at the moment, so it's definitely cool.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like through the conversations I have and listen to of other people, you know, who constantly talk about building an audience, and you get like all the hoopla from the industry types, which is like TikTok, or like there's one way to do it, TikTok, blah, 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 blah. And I've always thought like, surely it's a kind of like different for every person kind of situation, right? But so many people that I know and I see just, I don't know, they try the things that everyone else is trying, and if it doesn't work, they just go, oh, well, it obviously doesn't work because of me. Whereas I've always been of the opinion of like, well, there is life outside of TikTok or like even takeaway, but like there's life outside of exactly what a whole group of people are telling you to do right now in terms of building it, because it makes sense. It's always made sense to me that if you're building an audience for yourself, they're going to be like you, so you should be doing things that are like more true to you, and that's where you'll find your audience, rather than kind of shoving your square peg into a round hole. And that is kind of what it sounds like you're saying about like having a go on TikTok and it not really kind of being the thing because it didn't really fit with you.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that. Yeah, I've just never been a huge fan of those kind of short videos. But I enjoy watching them. But I like I said before, the YouTube, I'm more into watching the kind of funny, like crack up TikToks of like SpongeBob or something, you know.
Yeah.
But I find that I don't really see. I'll often see like, you know, really mainstream American music on TikTok. But yes, I find it's definitely harder to get like a loyal fan base from just posting short videos. I feel like if it's a super long video where someone sits through the whole thing, they must kind of, I don't know, feel a bit more. They must feel a bit more loyalty towards the person, right? Because they just sat through a big kind of video or something, as opposed to just watching them for 20 seconds. Yeah,
And
that's kind of, yeah, like you said, just something I figured out. And yeah, I'll still put up a TikTok now and then, just for fun. I mean, I post lots of stupid ones like that aren't related to music. But yeah, I just think of it more as a funny comedy thing. Like my biggest TikTok is me like when I was 20 doing a vortex, when that was a big craze, and that got like 100,000 views or something, and it was just me being a complete idiot. And then I just found that all it does is get you lots of haters in the comments. Like everyone's like, "Oh, your nose is so big," and blah blah. And I was just like, "Whoa!" Like, bruh. It was just like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. So yeah, I don't think I would even want to have an audience on TikTok because some of them are quite mean.
So yeah, and like the fact that we try and push people into like, oh, that's the only thing you could ever want. It's like, but what if it's not fun? Anyway, I totally agree. I'm curious, like you've been, it's only been the 70s inspired beat was a month ago. And so it's obviously quite early doors. But
yeah,
I'm really curious to know, like you said, that it's kind of had a flow-on effect to, say, the Hold Me video.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any other flow-on effects? And I'm not meaning just specifically like, say, Spotify streams or whatever, although like if that has happened, then that's interesting. But like anything, like people getting in contact with you more. Obviously, I found you and I've gotten in contact with you. Have you started to notice any flow-on effects from these videos yet in that sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing was probably my Instagram followers went up by maybe like 200 or something pretty quickly. And then another thing is, I'm not actually 100% sure if I can say this yet, but I did get sent like a really nice piece of gear by a audio interface company from the UK. They sent through an audio interface worth like $1,500, and they just sent it for free and told me that I just have to kind of have it in the shop for all the videos and give them a bit of a shout out. So that's really cool. So I've been using that for a while. Yeah, and I've had a couple other like cheaper guitar brands hit me up and they're like, "Oh, can you review this awesome guitar?" And the guitar's worth like $100. And I was like, maybe not that one, but I'll take that audio interface because that's pretty awesome. So that's a couple really cool things which have come from it. But yeah, and lots of people will be messaging me on Instagram, just saying they love the videos, and I've had a few people message me and ask me to produce their tracks, and just stuff like that. So yeah, lots of really nice feedback from people. And yeah, I mean, hopefully there'll be some more opportunities. I think in today's video, I've added a cheeky little quip. I said, because I don't have any good headphones, I've just been using my in-ear monitor, which is so bad. So I borrowed my flatmate's headphones for today's video. He's got some really nice ones, and I just put a cheeky little line in there. I was like, "Oh, if there's any headphone companies watching, like, surely just send me some headphones, But yeah, a bit cheeky, but I mean, yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, just stuff like that has been really awesome to see. Yeah.
Awesome. And so like we're talking about all this stuff, and it is I find it really interesting, but I also at the same time, and it sounds like you're kind of like this as well, as like this is kind of the means to an end, a fun way to do means to an end stuff of building audience and putting yourself out there. And the primary stuff is always like the music and putting yourself out there, like in terms of actually the creative art that you want to produce and take your time with. What is like your ambition for like your own music outside of the YouTube series that you're doing at the moment? And do you kind of think that what you're doing at the moment will help you along that journey?
Yeah, I mean, like in an ideal world, I feel like every musician would ideally just want their music to be very successful and just be able to earn a living from it. But I mean, I feel like that's quite a tricky one nowadays. So I think the only thing I'm really concerned with is you're just continuing to make music. And even if that's making music for other people or just being in bands or whatever. But I mean, ideally, yeah, I'd love for my own original music to kind of be a means to make some money. But I think ideally, I just love writing songs, and I love just sitting down with a guitar and just thinking of melodies. And I think in an ideal world, I'd just be a songwriter who writes pop songs for other people, because I think I'd love to perform my own music, and that'll be awesome. But it is quite a tricky journey to get there, and I think if it's not possible, I'd still be so content just writing music for people and just continuing that. I think that's the main thing, is just I just have this drive inside me to just write a song. And I think especially the last few months or so, I've just been writing heaps and heaps and heaps, and I feel like it's just, it's like a craft that I've just slowly been ticking away at, and I'm really enjoying. Yeah.
And it's really, because have you had any interactions with any of the like funding institutions in New Zealand for you or your music yet?
Not for my music. I mean, I think I would have been able to apply for it this most recent round, but they've actually changed quite a few of the rules to make it harder. So I didn't quite qualify. I think there's a couple that I just haven't got. It's mainly just the radio play stuff and things like that, which I haven't had yet. But yeah, I'm not overly fussed about that, to be honest. I think I honestly would much prefer just a cheap kind of camcorder video. Like it would obviously be awesome to like film a really high budget thing, but I think I'm not going to get all worked up about it. It's like at the end of the day, it's just I can do it myself and it'll look half decent, Yeah, I think the bigger one for me would be getting being able to go to a nice studio, and do some tracking. But I have been fortunate enough to I actually recorded some drums a couple of weeks ago with Tom Broom, who's a really awesome drummer in Auckland.
Legend.
Yeah, he's got this wicked studio out at the K Drums kind of factory, and we actually tracked drums for my EP, which should hopefully be out probably this year at some point. But got a super nice like 70s drum sound, and I got him to play the drums as well, and he's super wicked. So that's really exciting, and I just going through and editing all that now, and need to retrack my vocals and stuff. But yeah, so that's really cool.
Well, dude, you should totally. I mean, it would be pretty cool to do like to hit up some studios that you actually quite like. Like I'm even thinking like it would be great to hit up like D or Patrick at a Roundhead and be like, can I just get like, even if it's like, I want to kind of film one of my videos but using Roundhead, I'm sure they'd be like,
oh wow,
that'd be like hell yeah. I'm sure, because if it gets, it's the same thing as the like for the same reason that companies want to send you gear, it's the same idea. It's like location and using the studio and getting it out there to people is just as valuable, so, and that would be great. I can just imagine watching one of your videos where you're sitting in Neil Finn's studio. It'd be great, man.
That's actually, you've just like lit the spark inside my head right now. That's actually such an awesome idea.
I do. Well, I know Paddy listens to this, so Patrick, we'll connect you up, and you got to make it happen. He's a good Timaru lad, so he'll make it happen.
Yeah, I would love to, because one of the main instruments I've been using at the moment is the ARP Selena, which is a string synth from the 70s, or even earlier, maybe, I'm not sure. But I know that Roundhead's got one on that list of gear, so I'd love to play a real one. That would be insane.
Well, I think that'd be insane as well. Have you got any advice for musicians who maybe are feeling a bit stuck in their online, let's just say, promotional life, and are just looking for a bit of inspiration or a bit of motivation or a bit of advice, like from obviously early doors where you are now, but do you have anything you'd pass on to those kinds of people?
Yeah, I guess I'm not really totally qualified to say anything, but because it's still so recent. But I think, honestly, like we've already discussed, it was just finding something you're so passionate about that you could just talk about it for hours. For me, it was 70s music, but it could be anything, even if it's not music. And just shoving a camera in front of your face and just hoping for the best. Like that's just honestly, I didn't have any plan behind it. It was just I feel like if you love the topic enough, you should just feel so comfortable kind of expressing your opinions on it in front of the camera. But yeah, it must be different for everyone, I would assume. But I think, yeah, for me, it was just really just sticking to my guns with it. And even if it doesn't seem like it's working out for the first few videos or whatever, just persisting. And I think I'm not sure if this makes a big difference, but like I was saying before, how I post at the same time every week, I think that is bound to have some kind of effect, especially within YouTube with the algorithm. I think I Googled it. I Googled this question actually, and they did say that YouTube kind of favors creators who are consistent and, because it does just kind of build a loyal following of people who are kind of waiting for that specific moment. Because I do know that now when I premiere these videos at midnight, there's usually about 15 or 20 people in there watching as it's kind of live, which is pretty cool. So I think some people just already have caught on that I'm posting at that specific time. So I think that could be a good little thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just something inside you that you're really passionate about and able to express to others.
Yeah, I think if I added from what I would take from like what you're doing and tell other people about it, which is what motivated me to interview you now, because I think it is great what you're doing, and I think what it shows to people is like just it doesn't have to be that deep in terms of like building an audience online. Like you don't have to have you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to have all this gear. Like you said, you were just using like phone audio. You're still using in-ears. Like, you know what I mean? But it kind of doesn't matter. And like, sure, you could add those things later on and like that'd change a percentage of it for sure. But actually the thing that makes it the thing is there with you doing it, and you might as well just give it a go and stop worrying about it so much, or stop trying to make it so much like what everyone else is doing, because even though there's nothing wrong with that and it might work for a certain amount of people, there's nothing that's going to work for everyone, you know? So it's worth trying some stuff. Yeah,
no, I 100% agree with that. I think it's even like that with making music and putting music out. I used to be such a perfectionist about the way the song sounded, like mixing wise. And I think you just have to realize that half the people are going to be listening through their phone and they're not going to notice if the vocal's 2 dB quieter than it was in the first mix. You know, it's like there's things like this where it's like I've definitely fallen in the trap heaps. And yeah, like you were saying, I mean, people might be sitting at home thinking, oh, if only I had this slightly better microphone, then I could do this video idea, or if I had a slightly better MIDI keyboard or something. But I was using like a $50 MIDI keyboard up until a few months ago, and it was fine. It's just you just kind of have to make do with what you got. I mean, like, didn't Steve Lacy make a bunch of his hits on his phone on GarageBand? You know, it's like there's lots of stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right.
It's crazy.
Last question. I famously, I started listening to music when Green Day's American Idiot came out, and then I just kind of traveled on forwards from there. So I didn't grow up with music. I've had to kind of work my way backwards as someone who is probably almost completely unfamiliar with the music that you love so much. Obviously, I've listened to the Beatles and that kind of stuff. I know if it's played on the radio, I would have heard it before. But if you had like an artist or an album that kind of you think is a great example of how good the kind of music that you've fallen in love with can be, that's maybe a little bit left field of pop commercial radio stuff, what would you suggest?
Oh yeah, that's a tricky one.
I know.
I'd say it would have to be a Bee Gees album for me. I think the biggest one I've been heavy on recently is probably their album Children of the World. And it does have one of their disco hits on it, You Should Be Dancing. But apart from that track, I just think track after track is so amazing, and it was just before their disco explosion, so they still have elements of their like kind of, because before they're making disco music, it was like a lot more kind of soul influenced and really nice tender ballads and just amazing vocals, obviously. But I think that album just perfectly encapsulates what I love about the Bee Gees, and it's just before they exploded with that kind of Saturday Night Fever stuff. So yeah, probably that album has been. Oh, actually, I'm going to change my answer. Sorry,
No, that's good. You're allowed two.
Way, a lot better. Okay, so then the second one would be, there's an artist called Gilbert O'Sullivan who his biggest song was one called Alone Again, which is like a really big song. But his first album, his debut album, I think it's literally called Introducing Gilbert O'Sullivan, or it might be called, no, it's called Himself. Sorry, it's called Himself. That album has been my favorite album of this year, at least. It's very just kind of early 70s. He's got a very Paul McCartney-esque voice, but his use of words and the way he uses words in his songwriting it's just blowing my mind. And track after track, it's just like the most interesting arrangements, and just his wordplay just astounds me. And I've just kind of spent a lot of time kind of trying to encapsulate that kind of wordplay into my own music, and it's hard because obviously he's kind of like one of the best. But yeah, definitely that album and the Bee Gees one have been my kind of go-tos recently for inspiration, I would say.
What a lovely young man Nat was. That was a wonderful conversation, and very sweet of him to give me not one but two great album recommendations. I will be listening to them, and somewhere Brad Craig is laughing. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you appreciate it. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't subscribed somehow to Mountain Noise, and yet you're listening to this podcast, well done. I'm not sure how you did that, but please sign up. If you are signed up and you enjoyed this and you think it's got some good stuff in here, please consider sharing it with someone, posting it on your story, emailing it to someone, all of the above. And if you really want to support the work that we're doing here and fund future conversations like this, please consider supporting Mountain Noise through Substack, $5 a month or $50 for a year. We'd love you to be there. You get all these bonus perks as well. And if you don't have the motive or the means, that's okay. The conversations will carry on. The newsletters will keep arriving in your inbox. It's all sweet, dude. I gotta go listen to some Bee Gees now. I hope you have a good rest of your evening. Ciao.